All right, the water is starting to come on. The new splash pad for the birds. My name is Natalie, and I'm the Good Shepherd here on our small hobby farm. And I talk in third person, and I'm talking to myself, and I'm doing these videos for myself. And yet, like, not most of my life, trust me, not most of my life, a lot of my videos I do share. And, you know, why not? Oh my gosh, get off her. That's one is enough at a time. Hey, that's just too vicious. I don't even like it. I won't tolerate it. I won't tolerate it, Daisy. Daisy! Are you okay? Honey, she goes, good Lord. She goes, yeah, I'm all right. I'm all right. That's just the way he is. No, that's not all right. And that's not cool. I have 11 roosters here on the farm with a total of 42 birds. Today I just brought out my 10, 11-week-old baby bantam ladies into coop number 5, Anna, Maria, Amanda, and Amelia. So they're a little bit hot, you know, struggling. Today is Wednesday, July the 15th, 2026. I'm gonna sit down. With 85 fans blowing in the barn in central North Carolina today on our small hobby farm, it's cooler to be out and about. The humidity is insane. Today is July the 15th, 2026. And on, well, beginning in January of 2022, many things happened. And I ultimately experienced what is called a shared crossing, a shared death experience. Somewhat different than a, I happen to face the chickens because they're fun to watch, right? And I can see them from the camera. I look at them and I had what's called a shared death experience, where when I was traveling interstate roads to come be with my family, my father-in-law, JC, who was dying at the age of 87 years old, in his bed, a hospice bed in his home, January 28th, 2022, that was going to be, well, okay, look at me, I'm already flustered. It's been a long day, it's hot. And without a yet or a just or a but, because I don't make excuses for anything I do in my life, this is very important for me, Natalie, to continue. These 11 questions from this group forum called the Shared Crossing Project. William Peters is the founder, and I first heard, well, I couldn't believe it. I was in the kitchen one day, and I asked Alexa, I love listening to this. I say, Alexa, play Coast to Coast AM. And what that is it's podcasts on the paranormal. So anything, aliens, Sasquatch, which we have Sasquatch up here on the hill somewhere, spirit, near death. And anyway, there was one day where a podcast came on. It was with William Peters and Sandra Champlain. I think I pronounced her name right. They were talking about shared death experiences, and I was like, whoa, 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 because you know this. I'm just looking at everybody, what they're doing. Well, it's been 4.5 years now since this began. So I got, I'll get into it. I will. Here, listen, I need to just take a moment. Chase is one of my livestock guardian dogs, and he's been, well, he's my shadow, and he is a guardian, and he's not really a dog, even though he is. He's definitely a guardian. And definitely an angel, and he's unlike any other dog. He's not a dog that comes. He doesn't listen to anything I say. He is a silent creature, you know, except for barking by night or to alert us of anything. He is the most precious creature to all of these animals, chickens, little chihuahua, baby chicks. He knows everything, and he knows everything about me. it's not that I joined this forum. I think anybody can. You just go on their website and you click on, whatever. And they're like, oh, here's a questionnaire. And so there's 11 questions that they ask you to fill out, in detail. And I had done that many months ago after I heard this podcast on Alexa from Coast to Coast AM with William Peters. I think it was, I don't know, episode 34 or something. And I was like, whoa, this is kind of crazy because, I know that's what I've been going through. And yet, wow, to actually hear it from somebody else. I don't really share a lot, beyond what I share. And so I am on a journey now of continued sharing. And I feel heaven is like, Natalie, it's time. You got to start sharing, because otherwise, what good are you, Natalie, if you can't share your life? Heaven does delight in Natalie. I am the good shepherd, Natalie, and it was heaven who appointed me. And a lot of this did aspire on my journey of a shared crossing experience moment, shared death experience moment with my father-in-law, JC, on January 28, 2022. This is where question number 3, I'll begin to answer right now. Question number 3 of 11 questions total is, where and when did your experience take place? Please also describe your frame of mind at the time and the setting immediately before the experience. I couldn't believe when it all began, January 4th, 2022, when I fell into bed with COVID, a peaceful slumber, COVID round 2 for me. And where most people lost their, sense of taste and were miserable and sick and all this kind of stuff, it was like amazing to me. All of my 5 senses became super aware, not crazy, not bouncing off the walls. I was in a sleeping slumber, but aware of everything. My husband took very good care of me at that time. He nourished me with all of the broth soups. He'd bring me the Tabasco sauce and with a napkin on a little tray, and salt and pepper, and ask if I needed anything else. And otherwise, my COVID round 2 delayed my husband and my daughter's planned prior trip to come visit his parents, JC and his parents. By at least 10 days. And I was aware at that point in ways that, aware. And there is a difference to being aware and knowing. Where and when? Well, it did begin on January 4th, when the actual moment, the experience of the shared death experience with JC began, was on January 28, 2022, as I, Natalie, was driving up 2 days after my husband and daughters had already driven up from Florida to North Carolina to be with his father and mother during his father's dying days. We did know at this point that he was, in fact, dying, and yet nobody knew prior to me falling into bed with COVID. This was a planned trip just to come high. He wanted to visit his parents. My father-in-law does share the same initials as Jesus Christ. His name was JC. His name is JC. And I remain very close to JC's soul from, yes, heaven. And heaven is everywhere. It's not just above in the skies. JC's soul is everywhere. And we are all able to, no, we're not all able to. A lot of us can become able to communicate with our loved ones from heaven. I knew on this day, January 28th, everything that began to happen, that Jesus was present. Jesus. How would I know Jesus was present? I didn't even know Jesus. Other than what we know of Jesus. I wasn't closely connected. I didn't use Jesus' name in prayers. I was a God girl. Dear God, I want a pony, you know? Or I was like, angels hear me, angels hear me. Jesus, I never had, I was aware, but he didn't mean anything to me. And in hindsight now, that's because I had not yet met my soul. S-O-U-L. We all have a mind, we all have a body, and we all have a soul. So the day, January 28th, driving up here, listen, Daisy, leave him alone. This was the first time for me, Natalie, in at least 20 years, to be traveling alone on interstate roads, a 10-hour car trip, alone. No dogs, no animals, nothing, no children, no passengers, nobody else in my car for like 20 years of my life. On any interstate travels, somebody, some life was always with me. I had 2 steno notebook pads on my console, and I had a pen, and that was something that I'd begun doing really probably then when I'm traveling. And I put it there just to jot down notes, actually. I didn't have any idea that I was going to start to jot down everything as it was happening. The whole 10 hours, me driving and a pen and me just writing. Like, didn't matter if it was messy. Every once in a while I'd look over when I could, going 80 miles an hour, you know, like, oh, your host going sideways too much. And I just would flip the pages, you know, like it didn't matter. I just needed to, I knew it wasn't about knowing, and yet I was aware knowing that I needed to write everything down, everything. I'm talking exit numbers that I would see, birds and trees that I would see, exits that I would accidentally exit off to, and what I would find myself, where I would find myself, to at that point, to me, in hindsight, I can say at that point, it was a surreal ease, E-A-S-E, patience, beyond patience, like no rush. And I'm a fast person, and anytime I've ever gone anywhere in life driving, I've always been like, I just want to get there. I'm not one to stop off and take little exits, you know, hey, let's see what's here. No, I'm like, ETA is this, and I'm on my way. So when I found myself taking these, you know, random exits and then ending up at like gas stations 4 miles off the exit, and finding such little hand-carved trinkets as a Chihuahua, who was my father-in-law's Chihuahua, that became a pivotal role as soon as I arrived on January 28th. My frame of mind at that time, I was very lucid, very clear-minded. Keep in mind, I had been in bed with COVID for 10 days and then a few days up and about before I then ventured out. And I knew the whole time, from the moment I fell into bed peacefully like Sleeping Beauty with COVID, I knew, again, without knowing, something really big was about to happen. Something really big, you know. And then it's like, because I grew up with that, without that support from those closest to me of, oh, well, tell me more, you know, it was always like, what do you stop it. Premonitions, you know, I don't even like to use that word, premonitions. And that's not what I believe it was. I don't believe it was a premonition. I believe it was heaven literally wanting me to be aware of how heaven operates, because heaven was preparing me to be fueled and cleansed. And, you know, literally taken off lithium that I was on for years. And, you know, all these things were going to happen after that I couldn't have known then. And it was going to make my life a whole lot harder. And yet, at the same time, all of the harder times that have come in the past 4.5 years have been amazing lessons. And I continue to truly believe I am a messenger in life. Heaven in specific, you know, from this moment, January 28th, 2022 till now. Natalie, you're here with purpose. You are the Good Shepherd. My frame of mind was sane and sober, lucid and clear. Natalie, no different, you know, than anything before. Yet to me, oh yes, because when I got in that car at 5 a.m., I could put any music I wanted on in that car. My Cadillac Escalade, which has now been retired. We still have it as a farm truck here. What a special truck. I had never been more aware. At the same time, as I'd never felt, without even knowing it was feeling, an aware sense of utter peace, P-A-C-E, of my presence. No rush, love, knowing JC was dying. Natalie, it's time. That's what I heard. And I don't hear through my ears. I'm not schizophrenic. I'm not mentally ill. So again, I'm driving by myself, and I survived, a 10-hour, car ride, as well as I have 62 animals here on the farm, and I am the lone shepherd. And, you can't be a whack job or somebody crazy or whatever and have, so many animals under your care and all be happy and alive, as well as the fact I have 11 roosters with only 42 birds, and there is no bloodshed here. Heaven has played a huge role in all of this with my Good Shepherd, role and everything, including having me begin to share with life via social media right away. And I didn't know anything about TikTok. Facebook was like, I always got in trouble for anything I posted on Facebook by my family, so I was just like, I never did. Whatever. YouTube immediately at that point became a portal of a sort for me. Like, Natalie, start saving everything. From the moment I arrived and I went and saw the abandoned house, and I did all these videos of, like, I walked into this abandoned house and I was like, I want to be here. I want to be here. And we didn't know we were moving here. JC was still alive. This was like before February 2nd when he died. So my frame of mind was very open and aware, and I was feeling everything. I was seeing everything. I mean, like, not La La Land, not like, ooh, I'm going to do twirls in the fields, like, no. It was very much so for me. I was just like, whoa. I mean, this is an awful time of sadness. And yet, whoa, everything I saw and everything I felt at that point from January 28th through, and it's never stopped. 4.5 years into the future now, July 15th, 2026. And also with my hindsight, it was here my whole life. And I feel that this shared death experience with my father-in-law, JC, has really opened up a lot of doorways to my further understanding of a life I already have lived. I didn't even know I needed to make peace with, because it's not always about making peace with the past. It's been beautiful for me to be able to see my memory, all the shared death experiences I've had with humans and animals along my entire life. I simply never had a term to associate it all with. What a beautiful life it is to be someone who's able to be welcomed by other souls who are dying, and they know more than you because they're dying, and they're like, oh my God, Natalie, we need Natalie. When it is Natalie that they call upon, I'm like, now I know. I didn't know before. It's full circle. We're always going to be learning, and I love it. It is a blessed life I live, and yet this also all began like my whole demise, my whole being alienated by family and Baker acted, forced into institutionalized care, taken by police officers, called the police on several times, blasphemized by family, hated upon, made up lies about. And then all my health issues, my esophagus surgery. For achalasia, I had surgery on my esophagus. I went in for a normal breast biopsy. I'd had many breast biopsies, and because I have dense breasts. So I was like, another biopsy, and I came out missing like more than a quarter of my right breast. Like, I was like, what happened? Like, where is gone? And not only was it gone, like everything about it was gone. My nipple, like where'd it go? And on top of that, an infection that lasted for a year, where I had a hole in my boob that I had to pack every day with gauze and wrap and everything, and go in for weekly visits to the breast doctor. After a year, well, that's when we moved here. And at that point, they had referred me to the Center for Disease Control, which is not the first time I've been referred to the Center for Disease Control. And the first time was after I got meningitis 3 times, about, 17 or plus years ago. And I got it 3 times in 1 year and almost died the first time. Was in like a little coma for a little while there, and was not expected to survive. And they ultimately referred me also to the Center for Disease Control after the 3rd bout of meningitis. And that's when together we discovered that the Center for Disease Control, this was before cell phones and all that access. In life, we often hear of people being 1 in 6. Today, 2026, I believe, remain 1 of 6 in the world who gets something called amoxicillin-induced meningitis. So I don't take amoxicillin, no big deal. These were big moments in my life, and that's where I continue to believe that the shared death experience with my father-in-law that did begin on January 28th, 2022, with now 4.5 years to today, and all of my hindsight going back, I'm in awe, AWE. I live in awe, AWE every day, like literal beautiful awe. And it's really tragic because, it's just tragic. Well, this is why there's fairy tales, yes? There's a lot of people who hate Snow White and hate Cinderella and hate Goldilocks and hate Dorothy from The Wizard of Oz. It doesn't mean that they're bad girls, and I don't think any of them were bad girls. But life is bad that surrounds us. A lot of everything began to come to me. I met Jesus. Met Jesus. No, I didn't meet Jesus. I never saw Jesus in such ways, and yet, yes, I did in human form. I've already discussed that in my question number 2, I believe, at the veterinary hospital, seeing the man that looked like Jesus. I felt that I was fueled that 10 days, January 4th, 2022, I felt that I was being cleansed and fueled, prepared for takeoff into infinity and beyond, that heaven had me begin to become aware of everything at that point so that I could be aware and safely travel those interstate roads alone, as well as fill those 2 steno notebooks front to back to have, so beautiful to have. I just found those notebooks actually the other day. I'm so grateful that I saved the handwritten notes. Heaven is funny. Heaven is crazy. And, I have continued to, ever since January the 28th, meeting Jesus, been led to really further my whole focus and passions in life on fairy tale adventures. Hey, leave her alone. We're not even going to mess with that. No, we're not even doing it. We're not even doing it. My baby's in here. Everything does happen for a reason. Cliche, metaphor. The hindsight has been beautiful, and probably the biggest thing that I've been led to do since then is to, Natalie, continue redefining life. That doesn't mean remembering life, and yet you have to remember to redefine. It doesn't mean regretting life. It doesn't mean regressing back to those times in life. It does mean revisit and refuel today's notion of such words that at some point meant something to you at one age. They should definitely mean perhaps the same and yet in different ways. Everybody's going, it's so hot. It is 100 degrees in the shade. Come on, guys, let's all get along here, okay? Unfortunately for me, going back to question number 3, what was my state of mind and all of that? Well, I know how I was, and I knew how I was when I arrived here, you know, and I was in life. I was not in La La Land. I was not ever in La La Land. In fact, it was so real. It was beyond surreal. It was the most, it was like, not like an out-of-body experience, no. There was no hallucinations, no delusions, no manic behavior, no inappropriateness. I literally was like, whoa, I kind of like came back from the whole situation immediately upon arriving and knowing that I was really not, you know, meant to be a part of that boom right there. I was meant to be on the outskirts, so to speak, which is what I now have learned 4.5 years later. I refer to as being a passenger, meaning I'm meant to be there to experience these moments, and I never need to know why. I don't ask heaven why. I do live every day of my life serving heaven in my own, you know, heaven and I are on a need to know basis, and we're on a knowing basis every day, all day, 24/7. Hey, Chrissy, I'm just gonna turn this hose off really quick. Look at her having a dirt bath. I love it. Ultimately, what happened is, well, you know, you have a diagnosis of bipolar for, you know, many years of your life. And you know, you're on medications that you later learn after you stop taking, but you never needed because you never had that, you know, diagnosis. And, you know, I never even went through at that point, like, oh, that's terrible, or I'm so angry at anybody. I literally, when I met Jesus, like, I can't get angry like that. And it's so bizarre because I am filled with anger, not at life. I'm filled with anger at, like, how I get angry with heaven is what I'm saying. Like, how could you catapult me to infinity and beyond into a most amazing, free, you know, spirited existence and this most beautiful, you know, sanctuary farm, childhood home of my husband. Like, everything was like, oh, so perfect, but it wasn't. It simply wasn't. Heaven continues to remind me of everything, and I continue to embrace everything, and I continue to video most everything, and I continue to share most, no, again, not most everything. Not most, I video a lot. And you know, it is interesting because even before cell phone days, my mother in particular always used to say to me, Natalie, you're just like Willa. That was her best friend. You're just like Willa. You have so many stories, and they're so fascinating, and they're so amazing, and yet, you know, they're almost unreal. Well, thank God for video, because I have been able to capture most of these amazing moments since, you know, the past several years anyway, since meeting Jesus. And then there's moments where my phone will shut down and it won't allow me to take video. And in the past, before meeting Jesus, I'd be like, oh man, what's wrong with my phone? Stupid phone. And you know, now it's just like when that happens, I go, okay, I get it, heaven. I don't need to capture this moment on video right now. Meeting Jesus was meeting my soul. I never knew I didn't know my soul. I think most of us don't know our soul, and that ultimately has become my purpose with heaven since meeting Jesus, is to share, not my life, Natalie, and yet, yes, to share the Good Shepherd Natalie's life. It was heaven who created the role of the Good Shepherd Natalie, not me. I wasn't sitting around one day going, how can I be cool? These are beautiful moments for me to experience. Always in sane, sober, clear, lucid, beautiful, loving ways. And the reality is, you know, you can't be a prophet in your own hometown What's going on, lady? Are you okay? You look like you're getting dark around your eyes. Are you feeling well? Oh, they want the water back on. I just turned it off, guys. Ugh. Question number 3 is under the wraps. There's a total of 11 questions. I'm nobody special with this shared crossing project. There is tonight at 8 p.m. They have bi-monthly virtual Zoom. They're 1 hour long, forums you can join in on. I have joined in on 2, and I plan on joining in tonight at 8 p.m. on my 3rd round. Nobody knows me. I don't speak to anybody, although I can chime in and type things. I'm muted. I'm nobody. I'm a passenger. And this is also the difference where, meeting Jesus, everything, it was like, oh my God, we are so mean to ourselves. We really belittle ourselves, and we can sit there and blame and shame and judge everybody else for making us these ways. And yet ultimately it's so simple for us. Simple. It's not simple, and yet it is, to love ourselves, forgive ourselves, like accept and embrace ourselves and the quirkinesses and everything. I gotta go. I'm so sidetracked right now, and I am checking on these baby birds. They do look a little hot in here. I'm so grateful to be a part of this. Are you okay in there? Are you guys all right? Are you just chilling? Because it looks kind of hot in there. I don't know. Why is this fan not touching you guys? Hold on. They're like, we're just having a delightful afternoon. We're happy to be outside. I don't know what they call me either. Meeting Jesus on that moment with my shared death experience with my father-in-law remains every day of my life since January 4th, going down into bed with COVID. Over 4.5 years now, every day of my life is lived in AWE, in every which way. So many things. I hope to be able to further share with life, in all the ways that I've been led to discover such simple signs. I'm going to show you. And I'm grateful to have a therapist that I share this all with, and video, a lot of it with, so that for me, discover such symbols like this. A lot of things, the peace sign, the upright pentagram, and the ongoing arrows around a circle. Well, ultimately, these things I see, I'm like, well, I know the peace sign, that makes sense. The upright pentagram, I didn't know what that was, that an angel had shown me. And the next day I found a wooden trinket, handmade in the Goodwill store, that was that same star that I saw from an angel the day before. And so I bought it. And then I learned more about it. It's called an upright pentagram, which means ultimate protection. We all know what the peace sign means, peace. So peace, protection, and then the forward arrows, that was a big one, because the forward arrows is the full circle of life, which means eternity. What comes around goes around, and yet heaven has had me in particular continue to learn that with this particular circle, the arrows, that the good always leads. The good always leads. The bad's gonna happen.